if you clicked here, then you're probably interested in this little guy. The ARMASPEC SRS, their stealth recoil system. I've seen a lot of chatter about it the last few weeks or so, and figured I would take just a few minutes to talk about it. I put a lot of rounds through this one, and through a few different guns, a few different barrel lengths, and it's been interesting to say the least. I have some video that I'll roll in here about just the ejection pattern, recoil impulse. The video, or the rifle in the video, is my 14.5 carbon gas. It does have a brake on it. The brake isn't necessary. I just wanted to try it out, and it shoots super flat, and this does a really good job in my 14.5. When I switch it to my 10.5, it's a little different.
Here we have my 14.5. We'll be firing full power ammo out of this. If you watch the ejection pattern, it goes straight forward around 1, 2 o'clock. That's not what I want generally shooting. This still case, if you watch the ejection pattern on this, you'll see that it goes backwards. Beyond 3 o'clock to about 4 o'clock, and that's where I do want it to go. What you see on the top here is my 308 Strike Industries flat wire spring that I've been using in my 14.5 for quite a while now. It gives me a better range of ammunitions that I can use as opposed to ARMASPEC. The ARMASPEC will fire full power 223 brass and steel, but as you just saw, it fires full power at 1 o'clock, and that's just not what I was looking for in a buffer setup, which is my only real gripe about it, is that if I can use an adjustable gas to get it under control to where I can shoot full power at 3 o'clock, but when I do that, I can no longer shoot steel case reliably. With the Strike Industries flat wire spring, I can shoot full power brass at 3 o'clock and still be able to cycle steel case reliably. The ARMASPEC is a little finicky when it comes to that, so you gotta choose 2 of the 3. You can't get all 3. So it's either full power brass and 223 brass, or you can shoot 223 brass and steel case, low power steel case. But it won't let you get all 3 in that same area of consistency, where it doesn't beat up the gun too much. With the flat wire spring, I am using an H3 buffer. I can keep going on about spring rate and poundage and reciprocating mass and all that stuff, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole for a completely different video. Now, while these two do give me somewhat different performance in my shorter barrel adjustable gas guns, you'll notice that in my 14.5 that is not adjustable, they have roughly the same performance.
The ejection pattern for both is fairly consistent. Like, there's not a whole lot of deviation difference between the two when you compare them side by side. And this does feel a little bit softer on the shoulder. Like my flat wire spring and H3 buffer, I would say, because there's more reciprocating mass, you feel it just a touch more, but it's not a whole lot. And again, if you already have an H3 buffer, the flat wire spring is like 20 bucks, 25 bucks. This is 70 bucks. It's kind of a pain with the flat wire spring to take it out and put it in, but I mean, if you oil it right, you only clean it every few months or so, like you're supposed to, then it's not so bad. I shoot a lot of stuff. I switch parts around a lot, so it's more so kind of a pain for me, but it might not be for somebody else. Yeah, so for the $20 that you spend on the flat wire spring, which is the long one, and I know it looks weird as hell because it's a super long spring into a carbine buffer tube shooting out of a 14.5, but it brings everything down so much. It slows everything down just right to where I can shoot everything through it, and it's totally reliable. The only downside is that I've slowed it down so much is that on my 14.5 I can outrun my gun. So if I'm shooting low power steel case, I can't do quick drills, like build drills, stuff like that, because I'll outrun the gun, meaning that I'll go to fire again before my triggers even reset. And that's kind of annoying, but I like the fact that I don't do that too often, so it's workable for me. I have another lower with a mil-spec trigger that same kind of spring setup, and it runs just fine. So maybe it's just the trigger. Who knows? But again, if you're looking for this and you don't shoot a whole lot, you only go to the range like once every 3 months or so, like it's probably not the investment. Unless you just have the money. If you just have the money and you want to throw it and try it out, like go for it. I did. Like I don't regret it. I learned a lot from this. If money is kind of a thing for you and you don't want to be $70, $80, $100 invested in a part, I would suggest going with the flat wire spring. It'll give you severely more bang for your buck. It'll slow everything down. You'll save wear and tear on parts. You'll get a much smoother recoil impulse. Everybody says this is supposed to be, the whole point of this is supposed to be silent, right? So all this rubs on your buffer tube. So when this is going back, this is rubbing on the inside of your buffer tube. If your buffer tube is super cheap and it's got like a whole lot of ridges, it's like you can run your finger on the inside of your buffer tube and you can feel all the ribbed, and if it's not super smooth and super slick, you're gonna hear every bit of this. You're gonna charge it, and all that uneven surface is gonna rub on this, and it's gonna sound like crap. So if you have a super cheap buffer tube already, you're gonna hear this. This isn't gonna be like the silent thing that they advertise it to be. It will be if your buffer tube is fairly decent and is really smooth inside. I learned that the hard way. It's pretty funny. A quick example of what a shitty buffer tube sounds like has nothing to do with cost. So this is a Spikes Tactical 8-inch buffer tube, and it is not smooth inside whatsoever. It is super rigid. Like you can feel all the uneven, you can feel all the milled surfaces as you run your finger up and down that, and that's super disappointing since Spikes charges $120 for a lower, and this buffer tube was like $45 or so. So yeah, that was pretty disappointing. Also, ARMASPEC offers this Nifty Spacer Kit for your 8-inch buffer tubes or your traditional rifle length tubes. You can buy spacers if you want to run those in there. So it's in there just like so, and then it's super loud. It's super annoying. I hope you can hear it as well as I can. If you shoot suppressed 300 blackout subsonic, you can make this work if you have an adjustable gas, or if you can order the heavier configuration. You could probably make this work in lieu of the JP system, so you can have that super quiet recoil. You don't hear that rasp that you get from a traditional spring. But again, like the flat wire spring it quiets all that down too, so you don't hear that rasp nearly as much with a recoil spring or with a flat wire recoil spring. So again, it just comes down to how much you want totally invested in your gun on certain parts. If the recoil thing isn't too much of a big deal for you, then I would suggest going with the flat wire. Again, if you just want to try it out, if you have a competition gun that you're trying to put together that's, again, you're not trying to be all in, thousands and thousands of dollars, then this would be a good look. Alright, that's all I got for now. So until next time, take care.